Backup, Collaborate, and Pulse.
Also, additionally, from a sales perspective, one of the key drivers of this as well was how do we continue to drive value through our partnership channel to the end user community. And we find this as just an exceptional way to take advantage of an emerging technology that is very much in line with our core competencies, as Ken just illustrated. So we found this to be a very intuitive next step for us to take advantage of this new technology that's being introduced.
So where does this fit into the overall technology landscape in the industry? Oh, hang on, we've got some PowerPoint issues there. In terms of getting a grasp of what's going on in the cloud today, there's a lot going on. There are a lot of players in the space, and there's a lot of noise. What we've done is a lot of thinking about understanding how these different parts of the cloud are working together, and this is the way we see the technology landscape. On the left-hand side, we've got simple storage, and this is, at its most basic level, taking the hard disk drives that we've been using in our PCs or physically tethered to our PCs for years and moving them to the cloud. There's various offerings here. There's S3 from Amazon as probably the most widely used simple storage service, is what they call it, cloud storage platform. Microsoft's got its Azure storage, and there are some other players in the space. Generally, though, the properties of this online storage market, it's a commodity product, very little differentiation, very thin margins, and for you partners, pretty much no role to play. So these vendors are going direct to the users of the technology, and there isn't really a viable reseller program in place or a way for you to participate in that market. Going to the very right hand of the slide is what I referred to earlier as hardcore backup and restore, and this is where SOS has always lived, something we're very, very good at. We win a lot of awards for our product where this has always been our deepest competency. Backup is a $10 billion industry globally. We're seeing massive migration from traditional hardware-based backup technologies like on-premises tape or on-premises disk to cloud-based technologies. Online backup itself as a technology category is very well established now and is growing rapidly. There are very high margins involved in it, and it can be very reseller friendly. So we have 500 white label partners, many of whom are here today at the webinar, all of whom have very good businesses within the online backup space, and we expect the online backup category to continue to grow to 5 or 6 or 7 times the size that it is today. What we're focusing on today, though, are these middle two columns, which is a new category that's been poorly defined. This is our attempt to start to overlay some sanity on what's going on in cloud-based technologies. And so we see 2 distinct columns within this as depicted here, sync and then collaboration. Some of these names you'll know, Box and Dropbox. Dropbox is by far the biggest consumer offering in this space, and Box.net is having a lot of success in the B2B space, both of which are focused on this new category of product, which is sort of an intersection of social networking, a la LinkedIn, Facebook, with file storage and access and audit control. And when I think of Dropbox and Box.net, I think that Dropbox is to Facebook as Box.net is to LinkedIn. So where Collaborate really fits into this is a similar competitive product, a technology that's going to compete directly with Box.net, but most importantly will be distributed through our channel of global partners and will be built in such a way that you, our channel partners, can participate heavily in the business of selling these online collaboration tools. All right, so in terms of just further eliciting the differences between backup and Collaborate, so where are the distinctions between these 2 tools? Our backup technology will continue to be developed heavily. That's still our core business, and it's fundamentally a tool for protection of data against losses, whereas Collaborate is a cloud-based storage tool that is focused on multiple people working together. And we're going to, I'm going to flip ahead to this slide here, and to answer a common question, this webinar will be made available to everybody who's here today. After the webinar, you'll get an email with a video, and it'll be on our webinar archives page. But in terms of looking at online storage as a category and online backup, we have waged a thought leadership war for many years about the distinction between these 2 things. And that's now started to be an accepted premise that online storage and online backup are quite distinct. It gets further muddied and blurred by the fact that we've now got this emergence of cloud-based sync and collaboration products, as we saw 2 slides ago. But at a high level, some of the distinctions between online storage and online backup are as follows. I think starting at the bottom of the slide, this represents your local data environment, whereas the big blue cloud is pretty obviously the cloud environment. With online storage, I think one of the best distinctions there is between storage and backup is that where the primary data copy exists. So with an online storage product like Collaborate, the primary copy of your file moves to the cloud and lives in the cloud, compared to a backup tool like SOS where your primary copy remains in your local environment. And so again, in terms of data flow patterns with online storage, you've got a write once and then a read-write many situation once that data has traversed into the cloud environment. Whereas in the backup world, we've got a write many, read rarely data pattern. In other words, this file is in your local environment, is changing every single day. The primary copy stays locally, and we continue to then push that data to the cloud over time, building up a long version chain in the cloud. We still have versioning in Collaborate, and we're going to look at that, but a very high-level fundamental distinction is where that primary copy of data sits. But there's also differences when you look at the nature of the data that gets covered by the technology. With backup, you really want 100% coverage. You want as close to every. The ideal scenario would be every file in your environment is being backed up with the SOS Online Backup technology. So a terabyte is not uncommon in terms of the amount of data that you're using with the product. Whereas with collaboration, the amounts of data that you typically need to collaborate on is dramatically less. It might be 5%, for example, of your total data set. So another way to think of this is that collaboration is the files that are being used heavily and being interacted with currently and now. Whereas backup is literally we want to back up and archive all of our data. Again, when we then look in the cloud, there's further distinctions in terms of who is then using that data from the cloud. So in backup, we really want as few people as possible to have access to that backup repository from an admin's standpoint. Some people will have read-only access to the data from the cloud, but preserving the integrity of that history is crucial. So many of you have seen the demo where I roll back my backup account to 2006. We've got customers who can roll back their backup account to 2001. That's not the type of thing that you can do with online storage and collaboration products like a Dropbox or a Box.net, but it is something that's built into the DNA of SOS's backup stack and will continue to be. Whereas in the Collaborate product and in these online storage technologies, generally we've got many users or lots of people accessing the data with varying levels of access. We can have people with read-only access or read-write access. Interaction is heavy, so the whole purpose of the tool is to make interaction and modification of cloud content as easy as possible. And again, that draws a really nice, clear and bright line between online storage and online backup. With online backup, we don't want to give people read-write access in the cloud. We really don't want people mucking up our audit trails and our history and our versioning so that in any way that would tamper with our ability to roll back to a given point-in-time snapshot. Whereas with collaboration, we are promoting read-write access in the cloud because we want as many people to be editing and working on documents as possible. So I hope that does a good job of framing up the distinctions between these two. If there are any questions on that, happy to talk about them now, or we could kick that forward to the Q&A at the end. So feel free to ask any further questions you've got on that. Just again, this slide here, which might be a useful point of reference for you later, helps articulate some of these differences. Just checking if we've missed any. Amount of data is usually large with backup, small with storage. The key usage concept in backup. Oh, this is important. In backup, we always think in terms of data. So we're always talking about 500 gigs or a terabyte or multiple terabytes. So the key usage concept for you and your customers is the amount of data we're talking about in bits and bytes. In collaboration, that's no longer the primary usage concept. Primary usage concept with Collaborate is the number of users that we're dealing with. So one of the fundamental concerns of SOS Online Backup is data, whereas a very fundamental concern of SOS Collaborate are the people, the users, the people in your environment who are working on this. So at the very beginning of the presentation, I made a sort of a throwaway comment that this is social networking meets file servers. but that really does do, I think, a good job of conveying sort of the theme behind this technology. Because of that, when we look at pricing models, which Jeff will talk to in a few slides' time, we will be selling Collaborate to you on a per-user license basis, and you'll be selling it to your customers on a per-user license basis. So this has economic implications as well as just straight technology implications. In terms of most important features, in backup, it's encryption and versioning, recoverability, security, management, whereas in online storage and with SOS Collaborate, it's sharing, access controls, audit histories, in-cloud editing, reporting.